Hi guys, welcome back to my video. As you know, on this channel we talk about all things law, life, and just in general being a young professional in corporate South Africa. So I know I said I was going to post a video every Monday after my first one, but guys, zange ndagoa. The few weeks after that video, like, it was the whole preparation for boards and studying and just work, because work also sort of like reached a peak at that time. I just haven't had time to shoot content. And trust me, I am not neglecting you guys, but I am back with another video and I hope you enjoy. Please make sure to like, subscribe, and leave comments and turn on the notification button. I would love to hear what you guys think, what you guys want to hear about, and what you guys are just generally interested in. And yeah, today's video is basically an update about where I am, where I've been, board exams, and the general misconceptions that a lot of young people have about working in corporate South Africa.
Yeah, get into it.
To the question about just the life update. So obviously before the last video, I was in that period of preparing for board exams. Must have been like 3 or 4 months, months before exams, and I was just prepping for exams and spending most of my time studying, most of my weekends studying or whatever. So right now, obviously exams were done. We wrote on the 23rd and the 24th of August. And yeah, now I'm back at the office. I think, so I had a bit of an opportunity to go home, to go study from home. And I think I'm very grateful for that opportunity, because I didn't realize how much you need to be around your loved ones to gather strength for what we were going to do in those 2 days, guys. But
it was not easy.
Yeah, just being around my friends and my family during my study leave actually really carried me through those 2 weeks of just studying and preparing for the exam. So yeah, I'm grateful, and I'm back at the office feeling re-energized, and yeah, just it feels good to be back actually after that break. Obviously work is still a lot and the expectations are still high, but you can never learn in an environment that you are complacent in. So again, grateful. But enough about myself. Just to hop right into the concept of the big scary board exams. So obviously, as you know, to be an admitted attorney, there are quite a number of requirements that are set out in the Legal Practice Act that you have to comply with in order to be admitted as an attorney of the High Court. So you have to be older than the age of 21, 21 years and older, have to have an LLB degree, must have completed the practical vocational training, so the PE, which is what we're doing now, your articles, and then you have to write the 4 board exams. So guys, it's actually very funny that I've forgotten the other requirements, considering these were in the paper 3 that they were part of the syllabus for paper 3. But guys, I guess you can see how paper 3 went.
It was not easy.
But in general, just speaking, so yeah, there are 4 board exams and they are broken up into 4. Wait, I already said that. 4. But you have your paper 4, which is accounting. So it's legal practitioners bookkeeping. And paper 3, which is attorney's practice, but colloquially known as your ethics paper. I'm sure everyone's heard about ethics. And your paper 2, which is your wills and estates, and your paper 1, which is your court practices. So you can only write your board exams after you've completed 6 months of articles. And guys, board exams is so tough. Like, there are many instances where I've been in varsity and I'm going to write a paper and I'm like, this is so tough. But no one could have mentally prepared me for what board exams would be. Like it feels like the papers are long and you're obviously running on such little sleep because you've been studying, and the weeks leading up to, so obviously you are like working for majority of the time, and then depending on the company that you work at, you'll get leave and you won't get leave. Hopefully everybody gets leave because everyone deserves leave to prepare for that time, but most of the time people study literally in the week and the few days before leading up to the board exams. And I have to say that, so I wrote 3 papers. Some people write 2, some people write 4. Different firms will set out different policies as to how many papers you should or how many papers you have to write. And I think people often ask, do you wish you'd written 4? Do you wish you'd written 2? And I guess like everything in my life, the philosophy always is just don't focus on what you cannot change. Focus on what you can change. And right now, whether I wrote 2 or 4 or 3 isn't going to change. I wrote 3 and that's that. And I think like one piece of advice I would give a lot of people is to really go through the content well in advance. Studying too close to the exams themselves makes the whole process so much more difficult. Like you're under so much pressure because you're under pressure to not only pass, but you're under this pressure to actually retain this information that you're trying to put into your head. And it's so difficult. And I think many of us tend to sort of apply the same logic that we do to university exams. And I think although the concept is the same, you study, you go sit in an exam and whatever, for some reason boards were just so much more intimidating. Like I remember, so the first paper I actually sat down was Wills and Estates on the 23rd. When they were handing out the papers, guys, my heart, yes, I'm like, yeah, but now I've never been so scared to open a question paper in my life. So there's just a lot of like anxiety surrounding it. So during the time, I think it's also just like very important to take care of your mental health, to take care of your physical health, because another mistake I made was eating trash during that time, like eating trash. But I'm like, I guess I learned from it because I'm improving. I finally joined the gym and just eating better and eating more sustainable foods rather than like KFC every day, because a girl like me could have eaten KFC 7 days a week and had no problems. But yeah, those are boards. Like I don't think I want to talk too much into the concept of boards until the results are out.
I wish I did a real thing, proper.
But yeah, like it was a very tough time. I think it was a very tough time. And it also made me realize that work itself and just my anxiety in general was so peaked, because you're trying to balance working and studying and you have to try and show up for both at like 90% of yourself. And it's very difficult. Like it's extremely difficult to do. But yeah, guess another video will come out on tips and tricks when results are out, guys. But to move on to like the next part of this video, being sort of the misconceptions about being a young professional and being in corporate and, you know, being a young lawyer, I guess. I think for me, the biggest misconception was that I would have money, guys.
20, 40,000, 3 million, $18, 40 million.
I think it's like when you're at university, particularly if you're on financial aid or student bursaries such as myself, the money that you're getting in proportion to the money that is on your contract seems insane. If you had asked me in November 2022, I would have told you I would be living in Sandton, driving a GTI with a sunroof. You know, I had this whole image of what my life would be like. And I think obviously factoring things like inflation, the economy, and just the general value of money and its buying power at the moment, I guess money-wise, I'm not where I thought I would be. And then that brings me into the second misconception, is that people tend to believe that young professionals have an understanding and knowledge of how to manage that small yana money that I was just talking about. And I always say that I wish there was just more information out there about like which banks to bank with, which banks to go for car financing, you know, and just how best to save from that money that you have, and stuff like retirement funds and life policies. It's just been so difficult being a young adult trying to navigate that space and plan those things by myself. And I'm so grateful that my family and my parents are always people who I can pick up the phone and be like, hey guys, I'm looking at this life policy, what do you think about it? And you know, the reality is that not many people have that like soft landing. And it's just like, I think it contributes a lot to the reasons why a lot of people end up in financial debt at like an early stage in their lives, because you'll have banks calling you left, right, and center, offering you credit cards with like amounts of 15,000 rand, overdraft of 20,000 rand. Mind you, the money that they're offering you, so it's just like, hey guys, I really wish, that's a big misconception, like that money management is easy for young professionals. I wish that there was more financial literacy for people going into their first jobs. And then as just a third, I think a big misconception that most young people, and this I think speaking particularly to my field, is the thought that we have to get into the place knowing everything, or being perceived as knowing everything. And I think that's detrimental to your own fault, because environments such as law firms, particularly, like I think any law firm in fact, requires an individual who is willing to learn, who is willing to be criticized, and willing to take that criticism and apply it positively to their lives. You know, I think when I look back at university, so I'm in a corporate and commercial department, and when I look back at university, I must have done one company law module. And in that module, I just remember things like sole entrepreneur, partnerships, you know. And then the first week I step into this big environment, they are handing me a little pocket statute, the Companies Act, right? And they're like, you know what? Here's a legal question. Go solve it and come back to me. And I'm like, even nah, I do not remember this being taught in company law at all. And I think that applies for any department or area of law that you're in, really. I think like most of the time you may have this idea of how a concept works, but practically and in that market standard, how it's applied is very different. And I think if you come in with that attitude of, yeah, I have to be perceived as knowing anything, I have to be perceived as always being right, I cannot afford to like be wrong or fail or make mistakes, you become very hard to teach, and you block yourself off from opportunities to learn. So I think that's another and not sort of a misconception, but a lesson that I think everyone going into the corporate space needs to have. Be as teachable as possible, because for me, the last 9 months have felt like, and it's been 9 months, guys. The last 9 months have felt like more of a learning journey and a continuation of my education than it is a job. And this is not to say it's not a job, but it's more of a learning thing. Like every day learning something new, drafting something new, learning a new concept. That's what it is. You just have to be able to be teachable so you can learn. And then I think going into sort of another misconception about corporate, particularly again for law students, is the one about how we have this idea that we have to pick. So I'm not sure if all universities actually even do electives. So if you go to UP, and I think a couple of other universities, you at some stage in your degree you will have an option to do electives. So at UP it's in your final year. So for the 4-year LLB kids, it will be in the 4th year of your LLB. And you'll get an option of about 15 to 20 or so electives, of which you can pick 4 for the whole year, right? And we tend to focus too much on picking electives that are directly aligned with the departments that we want to be in or the ones that we see us in. And don't get me wrong, this is not something bad to do. I suppose it gives you a general feel of what you're sort of getting into. But in my experience, it was like I did not take any modules that were remotely related to what I do on a daily basis now. I had statutory crimes, I had education law, I had trust and estates and notarial and deeds. So notarial and deeds and trust and estates, I took majorly due to the fact that I obviously knew that there were board exams which were similar to those modules. And I have to say, like, I wouldn't write off wills and estates completely, because it actually just, like, when I got into our PLT, so this is the practical legal training, and we were doing wills and estates, I was like, oh, I remember this. I might not have listened in class, so I'm not really sure, but I remember seeing the L&D. Oh, so that's how I basically chose my elective. And to be quite honest with you, by the time we were selecting electives, I just wanted to be done with university. Like, I wanted it to be like, boo, 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 it's the end of the road, guys. So I think another big thing was that I chose electives that I had notoriously heard were easy, because I just wanted to pass and meet the minimum requirement mark required in accordance with the contract that I'd already signed with my firm, and go work, like, be out of university. And to cut a long story short, the modules were not easy. I had been bamboozled, scammed, and lied to, because I fought for my life in education law, I fought for my life in trust, I fought for my life in deeds. The only one that I could say was okay, it was cute, was statutory crimes. So I'm not really sure if UP still offers that. So that's a misconception, If I look back, none of those electives actually apply to what I do on a daily basis. So while this may be true for some and not for others, I don't think you should focus so much on doing electives based on where you want to be, but rather choose them on aspects such as, do you enjoy it? Do you have an interest in this? Because it's scientifically proven that you will do better at something that you enjoy, because you're likely to want to spend more time on it. So I would say choose the electives that you enjoy. Choose the electives that you want to do. Choose the electives that are sort of surrounding your interest, your general interest, and rather not focus so much on electives that you think you should do. Because I saw people take stuff like competition law, tax law, which were generally the modules that were known to be harder. And then when you look back and you ask them, it's like, oh no, I only did it because I wanted to be in the tax law department, or I wanted to be in the competition department. I don't think you should hold yourself hostage like that in university. The work life is still gonna hold you hostage, so it's not worth it. And then, what is another misconception? Oh yes, that an 8 to 5 is actually an 8 to 5. So I think in my case, most of the time I will get to the office at like 8:30 and then work until 8:30 again. So 9 to 5 isn't always going to be a 9 to 5. And I think this is like particularly in law firms. I know a lot of like maybe if you work in insurance or in a bank, as like part of like what we call the in-house counsels, you may actually typically work a 9 to 5. But with a law firm, shame, that is not what you're going to find there. And I want you to be mentally prepared for this, because I think if I wasn't mentally prepared for it, I would not cope. But I think going in, I was already aware that, girl, 9 to 5 doesn't exist, yeah. But yeah, that's another misconception that I think exists about the law. And then I think another big one, which is probably created by sort of the barrier to articles, and obviously because there's a lot of LLB graduates and not so much opportunity for all of us to do articles, is that being in law is sort of like for the privileged, or sort of like for the connected. And I think I've seen too many instances where There's people who you wouldn't put, I think I'm an example of such an individual where you're not particularly connected or particularly privileged, but you just work hard. And this is not to say that people who don't work hard, who don't have articles or don't secure articles, don't work hard, because the space is so damn competitive, guys. Like, if you want to get into a big five, you're looking, at least at the time that I was applying, at an average of 70 to 72 and upwards. And because of that competition, I think it requires you to really, really, really work hard and really just give university your all from at least your second year. Like, by second year, if you know and you said that you want to do articles, you need to start giving your academic record your best at that time, because you, by the end of second year, you need to start applying. And if your academic record isn't good, and then, you know, there's always going to be someone out there who has like a 90 average or who has an 80 average, and when your academics record's not good, those are realistically just the people you're competing with. And I think putting in the hard work in your academics, balancing it out by doing extracurricular activities. I have a whole TikTok video on this, like being in the SRC, being in Law Student Council, and you know, the likes. That is a great opportunity and a great way to set yourself up to be seen and recognized for these opportunities. Like the LLB degree, not so much that it's for the privileged, but it's so competitive. You need to apply early, like, and make sure you, based off like public information, obviously, because no one actually lives in a grad recruiter's like mind, meet the typical sort of requirements that they look for in a potential candidate. But yeah, and I think those were the biggest misconceptions that I have had to deal with. And yeah, I hope you guys really enjoy this video. I hope you guys have been good. Make sure to like, subscribe, and turn on the notification button. And I'll see you guys at my next video.
I wish that I could have this moment for life.